What is going on, everybody? This is That, and today I am reviewing A Bond Undone by Jin Yong. A Bond Undone is the second book in the Legends of the Condor Hero series, and I've reviewed the first book and already liked that book. This book, in my opinion, was even better. If you haven't seen my review of the first book, go watch that. It's what is always described in the press as the Chinese Lord of the Rings, even though the books are completely different and basically have nothing to do with each other. But what they mean is it's a really popular series in China. And I enjoyed it a lot. This book is a straight continuation from the first book. It feels like you just turn a page and you land right in the middle of this book. And well, I'm gonna start this review by talking about the story, then giving you my likes and dislikes, and finally my score for the book. Okay, so let's start with the story. Now, it's pretty hard to recap because so much happens in this book and it's actually a pretty fast-paced book, but I'll try my best. It starts off where the last book ended, with our hero Guo Jing, who is a super nice guy but unfortunately not the brightest, trying to get some medicine. For this purpose, he is infiltrating a complex together with Lotus Huang, who has been traveling with Guo Jing at the end of the last book, and he kind of fell in love with her. When infiltrating the complex, Lotus Huang and Guo Jing actually get involved with quite a few other people, and this will last through the entire book. They're basically just getting from encounter to encounter, often with the same people that we've already met before in this book. The main plot string is that both Guo Jing and Yang Kang actually find out about their past and about the past of their parents, which also means Guo Jing realizes he is betrothed to someone already, and he was promised the hand of one of the daughters of Genghis Khan, and now he's also in love with Lotus Huang, which really complicates matters for him. And the other really important aspect in this book is the legendary kung fu manual called the Nine Yin Manual. And in this manual, apparently there are legendary kung fu techniques developed by one master. Everybody's trying to get the masters to improve their kung fu just enough to beat the other masters, and so on. But I won't spoil too much, so I won't go into it too much. Just let me say a few things. There is a lot of kung fu training, and we meet a lot of kung fu masters actually who manage to nurture Guo Jing's skills and martial arts. There are new characters who are sometimes really crazy, sometimes really cool. I'm actually totally in love with it. We actually have a kung fu fraud character appearing. I mean, how cool is that? And meanwhile, the relationship between Guo Jing and Lotus Huang gets developed, and well, I won't go into the story anymore, I told you, so let's go straight into my likes and dislikes, and I will start with my likes, and there was a lot to like about this book, in my opinion. So let me start by talking about the writing style, because this was translated from Chinese, and this was supposed to be super hard to translate, and again, like the first book, the translation actually feels very good. You won't really miss out on cultural references either, because there are a lot of footnotes in the book where you can actually read up on all the topics that you might not know about. But for me, the coolest thing about the translation is that this was actually a different translator from the first book, and the style just matches really well. I don't know how they did it, but yeah, it's really cool. The next thing I really enjoyed is that there are incredibly memorable characters and really interesting and really cool characters in this book. I already said that we meet some of the martial masters. We meet the Beggar of the South, the Venom of the West, the Heretic of the East, and unfortunately we don't meet the last one, but they're also interesting and unique. They all have completely unique styles and lifestyles and everything. It's so interesting. Like, how can you forget about a character named Hoary Urchin? In all seriousness though, it can get a little confusing because there are just so many different names, and sometimes the names are Chinese, sometimes they're English, like Hoary Urchin, and it can be confusing, but I definitely didn't feel like it was too confusing. But keep that in mind. If you're not good with names, then you might have some trouble here. I already said before that the pace of this book is really fast. In my opinion, the pace is almost perfect. It's just it always, like, it keeps going exactly when you want something to happen, but it spends enough time on every single encounter so that the encounter feels meaningful, which is really not something a lot of books can pull off. I never felt bored. I was always excited to see new villages, new settings. You know, there's a lot of freedom when they move so fast through China to explore a lot of different settings, and I really enjoyed that part in this book. Mainly because most of the settings involve nature, because they're usually small villages or maybe some lakes or rivers or whatever, and I just really enjoyed it. And the last thing I really loved, of course, is the Kung Fu. And I feel like this book has really stepped it up from the last one, because we now have all these concepts in place, the inner Kung Fu, the Neigong, and the external Kung Fu, and now it's ready to rumble, and the concepts just work out so well now. Everybody has their own style, and it is so cool to read. The thing about this style of book is that it's just so different from the Western fantasy we have now, where everything is so defined and you always have to have logical ways to progress or get stronger or whatever. And in this book, it's just learning from certain martial masters will make you a lot stronger than somebody who just learned on maybe their own or from a weaker master or whatever. And it's just very different, but I really enjoyed these ideas, these concepts. So with that being said, let's get to my dislikes. In the beginning, I think it was a bit hard to get used to the book again, because they immediately throw all of those names at you again, and you might not remember some of the names from the last book. And then they throw all these new names at you, and it's kind of hard to get into it again. In the end, it wasn't as bad as I thought, because you can remember a lot of the characters pretty well, and yeah, it gets better. There aren't too many new characters being introduced after a while in the book. One thing I didn't enjoy in this book is, I think, a Chinese cultural thing, and I'm not 100% sure, so don't, no offense if this is wrong, but there's this concept of tricking somebody, and if the person is tricked and doesn't notice, then you deserve whatever you achieve with it. So what I mean is that some characters, and this is especially Lotus Huang, they always try to trick other people into some action that helps them. For example, Lotus Huang might trick them to train Guo Jing so he gets better at Kung Fu, which isn't bad per se, but I just feel like it's so weird that these honorable men, and these are often Kung Fu masters who really have a focus on being honorable, and then these masters try to manipulate somebody to just do what they want. It seems so weird to me, but I think this is a different mentality. Like, if you manage to pull the trick off, or if you manage to manipulate someone, then you deserve it. But that's just really not how I think, and that really didn't make me like Lotus Huang more. So that was one of my gripes with the book, even though it's not a major thing. So despite that, my overall score for the book is a 9 out of 10, because I think this is actually a really, really good book. The first book I wasn't 100% sure if this is like more a niche thing that you might like, but this book is really just very good. There are a few books that are published in an Eastern setting now, but this book is just the real deal, and it really shows because it is very different. It just has concepts that Western authors don't know about or don't use. In this book, the Kung Fu explanations and all the basics are already established, so the book just goes nuts on new techniques, which I really enjoyed. And I also love the Taoist or whatever influences, and just the old Chinese history, because everything is set into this historic world of China. There is no fantasy world here, and I'm a sucker for stuff like that. So overall, I just really recommend this book to you if you're interested in the culture, or if you just want to read a different fantasy book. Way better than the first book, in my opinion, and not because of the writing, or because the first book was written badly, or the characters are way better, but just because the pacing is so much faster. And the pacing wasn't bad in the first book, but I just feel like I really get these books now that I'm kind of into it. Maybe that's also a reason, but I enjoyed the book a lot. So yeah, that about wraps up my review. If you have read the book, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to drop a like and maybe sub to this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye!